like to introduce you to Professor Ian Jones, who will be leading today's session along with some of his team. Ian is the Professor of Psychiatry at Cardiff University, and he's the Director of the National Centre for Mental Health. He leads the Bipolar Disorder Research Network, and he's also Director of BEPC, a group psychoeducation programme for bipolar disorder. So now I'm going to hand over to Ian.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lorna. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Everything am I coming around through loud and clear? Fantastic. Thanks you, Maria. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thank you, Felix. Thanks for everybody else. Okay, great. So we've got an hour. We're going to take a little bit less than that. I hope you give you 5 minutes break before the next session. We've got a huge amount to cover because grandiosely, we promised in the title to tell you everything you need to know. Well, first thing I've got to say is sorry if that was getting you here under false pretenses, but we can't possibly tell you everything that you need to know. But what we're going to do is give you a little taster of what we've been doing in Cardiff and developing now with this wonderful team for many years, and have delivered to many people. I always get the number wrong because I always exaggerate, but John will tell you in his introduction how many exactly that we've covered, which is our bipolar psychoeducation program. And that essentially is a program that we've been running in Cardiff, and John's going to give you some more detail about it, in which we try and help people understand this condition and how they can help best themselves live the best life that they can with bipolar. So you've got the privilege today of not just having me, you lucky people, you've got some fantastic people from our team. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is just ask the team to introduce themselves. So if I hand over to John first to introduce himself, who's the key member of the team when it comes to BEPC. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Ian. I'm not really the key member.
Oh, you are, John.
I'm not. That's Ian. You're the director, mate, aren't you? I'm a CPN half the week, and the rest of the time I work with Cardiff University.
So just so people know, John, everybody knows what CPN is.
Yeah, some people might not have a CPN as community psychiatric nurse or community mental health nurse, working in a local mental health team in Cardiff.
Excellent. So then the other thing we've got is 3 fantastic members, psychology graduates who are members of our research team who are also involved in delivering the program. So first up on my screen is Kate. Kate, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kate, a psychology assistant at the National Centre for Mental Health. At the start of lockdown, I was lucky enough to help participate in BEPC, facilitating and running the courses and booster sessions for our graduates of BEPC as well.
Excellent, thanks Kate. Alice is next up. Alice.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Alice, and I'm also a psychology research assistant with the National Centre for Mental Health at Cardiff University. And yeah, same as Kate, really got involved with some booster sessions to help support people through the pandemic, and have also been involved in delivering the BEPC course as well.
Brilliant, Alice, thank you. And Holly, over to you.
Hi everyone, so yeah, I'm Holly. I work at the National Centre for Mental Health at Cardiff University alongside Kate, Ian and Alice. So I've also been helping out co-facilitate the BEPC sessions, and I've found it a privilege just to listen to individuals' experiences of bipolar disorder.
Excellent, thank you, Holly. And then John, I wonder if you can introduce our most important members of the team today, which are 2 people with lived experience who've gone through the course, who've very kindly agreed to come and share their experience with us today. John, do you want to introduce Phil and Pete?
Yeah, of course. Before that, I should say that when we present the courses, we have 1 or 2 clinicians, and we also have someone with lived experience to help us present. And we always have chosen someone with that lived experience who's already taken part in the course, so they know the format of it. Right. So Phil took part in the face-to-face course over in Swansea about 5 years ago, was it, Phil?
Yeah, about that, I think. Yeah, always. Time's gone quickly, but yeah.
It has gone quickly.
4 to 5 years, yeah.
Perhaps it was, 4 or 5 years. And that was a face-to-face group over in Swansea, and Pete has taken part in our latest version of the course, which is online. And Pete, you took part on our most recent course, didn't you?
Yeah, the course recently finished, and it was 6 weeks well spent.
It was 6 weeks, yeah. 6 weeks well spent, did you say?
Very well spent.
There we are. Even the jokes, Phil. Pete, rather.
Well, mostly well spent.
Most of the jokes, yeah. That's it, Ian. That's Phil and that's Pete. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Excellent. So I'm going to share my screen now, if I can do that. Gosh, hold on. Let me just come out of that. We're very professional, aren't we? Okay. Excellent. Can everybody see that? John, is that okay? Is that coming through okay?
That looks good
Brilliant.
to me.
So what we're going to do now is I'll just give you a feel for what we're going to do for the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, giving you some chance to ask some questions of the team at the end. And that's, we're going to give you a little bit of a taster, covering some of the content that we have in the bipolar psychoeducation course. John is going to give a brief introduction at the beginning, tell you a little bit about BEPC, a little bit about the course and what we've done. Then I'm going to say something about what is bipolar disorder. Then we're going to hand over to other members of the team to cover areas of the course. So John, with that, over to you, and give me a signal when you want the slides on.
Over now. Okay. Yeah. That's the first slide. We have the next slide. We should be more slick doing this, shouldn't we?
There you go.
Nice one. So yeah, we've talked about it already. I mean, we've been running these psychoeducation courses now for over 10 years now. And they've been really, pretty successfully and warmly welcomed by everyone who's taken part. I mean, you can see the figures at the bottom of that slide, which are, is pretty, I don't think I've ever seen figures as positive as that on a course I've ever been on, really. So over the past 10 years, we've run 67 groups, and we've had over 700 participants. What people like about the course, I mean, obviously they like the material that we present, but I think a lot of the people, or most of the benefit from the course comes from meeting other people with bipolar disorder. So they can share experiences, they can validate their own feelings. And I think that gives a lot of strength. There's a certain magical power about the groups we've done. We've developed and honed the content of the course over the 10 years. We've included sessions on a session for family and friends without the normal course participants there. And we've added another session. What was the other session we did, Ian? I can't remember. Then there was another one we did. No, I remember. We added someone with lived experience to come and help us on the course. Yeah. It was from feedback from early on the course. They said that's what we needed. It's worked out really well. We often have visiting clinicians in Cardiff Uni, and they've come along to the course, and they've gone back to where they were, or they've moved on. And it's been used certainly around the United Kingdom, but also in places as far afield as New Zealand, Brazil, Turkey, and all over the places there. In 2014, we won the British Medical Association, British Medical Journal Award for Innovative Practice. Yeah, and those really high figures. Ian, are you surprised those figures are so high? I've never seen 96% recommending anything.
Our experience, John, is that people have really benefited and got a lot out of the course, haven't you? Which is really good news, actually. And as I say, just from my point of view, it's been the most rewarding thing I've been involved with in my clinical practice. And really, I think it's been a really positive development.
Can I just pick on Phil and Pete? Phil first. Why do you think, why was it so beneficial to you, do you think? Or why did you find you enjoyed it so much?
Well, it was obviously nice to meet other people with going through similar things to yourself, and seeing how they manage it, but also the way the course is presented as well. Mm-hmm. That makes a big difference. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable with everyone in the room when you're doing the course.
It is
that makes a big difference. There's no pressure. It's more enjoyable, really.
Yeah, it's quite a relaxed thing, isn't it? And if people have found something specifically useful to them, they can talk about it as well in the group setting. How about you, Pete? Because Pete, you came along because of COVID pandemic came along. We had to change what we were doing, and so we started doing internet-based virtual courses, Pete. So how did
Yeah.
you find yours?
Well, I don't think the online angle was really a handicap at all. It was very accessible, informal.
Mhm.
It was, as well as the peers, as Phil mentioned, and just the content as well. I mean, there is lots of information out there, but it sort of pulled everything together about causes, treatments, you know, like lifestyle preferences, and it was an all round very helpful.
Mm. Can we just tell everyone, Pete and Phil, we're not paying you to say this, okay? This is
Not enough, no.
legit. Not enough.
No,
Oh, wow.
no.
What we thought, what we were worried about when we started doing the virtual courses was that we'd miss that human interaction part of it that we get in the face-to-face settings. Certainly for the virtual groups, they are smaller in number to make sure that we get everyone can get a chance to do things. But Pete, you found it okay then?
No, I mean, I've done quite a lot on Zoom during the pandemic, but this was, as I said, it was just a very easy and inclusive atmosphere, and it's just felt very comfortable throughout the whole thing.
I think for some people it works out really well, because if you can't get to the groups, or if it's not a time that's really suitable for you, you can sort of, it's much more flexible.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Ian. Should we have the next slide?
Excellent. I can do that. Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, so in the pandemic, we had booster groups for the everyone who had gone through the course. We felt that we needed to offer something, and that was accepted really well, and it was really nice for everyone to meet each other that they'd met before. We've also piloted the course that Peter was on, a 6-week internet-based course, and we've had very good feedback from that. We produced a training program for NHS staff in Wales, but I think we're going to allow it, or not allow it, but I think we're going to share it across the country. A training program for them to provide the face-to-face psychoeducation course, the 10 or 11-week course we'll talk about in a moment. And we're also in the process of developing a training program for the virtual groups as well, because there are slight differences in the way that we manage them, and each one has its own things we've got to be careful of. Thank you, Ian. This is the matrix table. This is a table that's been written by the National Psychological Therapies Committee, and this committee looked at all the evidence for all different psychological treatments for all a host of mental health conditions. And if you go to the next slide, Ian, and what they found for bipolar disorder, these are the things that are useful for psychological interventions, useful for bipolar disorder. As I say, there's evidence like this for all different forms of mental health conditions. And it's really nice to see that 2 of our projects are up there. Beating Bipolar is an internet-based psychoeducation program that ran along with the face-to-face courses that we did. Unfortunately, it's down at the minute, but we are thinking, Ian, aren't we, about doing a Beating Bipolar version 2. So this is something that a course that you do in your own time. And you build up a portfolio of information. And also our face-to-face bipolar education programs courses there as well, which is really quite reassuring, isn't it, Ian?
Very, I think it's really good to know that one of the best evidence-based interventions for bipolar is psychoeducation approach. So that's really encouraging, I think.
Mm. So yeah, I can see lots of questions coming up. When we first started doing the pilots, we aimed to do people in Cardiff and then Wales, but now we're looking to spread it across the country. And I think we're going to give the address at the end if anyone does want to take part in it. Then we can work through that list. That's correct, Ian, isn't it? I haven't jumped the gun there.
I think so, John. I think we'd be interested in hearing from people who we'd want to hear more if we can offer it more widely. When we do that, and can't promise anything, but we're working towards that at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible for us to do every course throughout the country. The idea is that we can train local teams up to run their own either face-to-face courses or virtual courses. That's the plan, anyway. Is that it for me, Ian? Excellent. So no, it's not. Sorry, no. Sorry, Ian. This is a rundown of the content of the courses. So it's a 10-week course, but we added an extra week for family and friends to come along, and those are the things we talk about. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more because I know it used to be time. So I'm going to say a little bit of it. As you saw, one of the topics of the first second session is what is bipolar disorder. So I'm going to give you a little taster for what is covered in that. So first thing that we discuss is how what bipolar disorder is. It's a kind of serious illness, like many other common conditions. Diabetes, epilepsy, it's common. And it's a problem with the control of mood. It's some people that have a vulnerability to episodes of low mood, depression, and episodes of high mood, mania. And in the course, John, we discuss what can help people think about bipolar disorder. And one of those things that people differ on whether they find it useful is to whether thinking about bipolar as a kind of a fault in a kind of internal mood thermostat is helpful or not. And I think some people find that a really helpful way to think about things, and others not so much. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think it's horses for courses, and at some point people find it a really good analogy, and other people that don't feel it very useful at all. But as an analogy, it has some effect.
Thinking about that, we also kind of spend some time thinking about the different labels, that are used for bipolar disorder, the difference between what's meant by bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorder. For example, bipolar 1 being people that have a vulnerability to more severe high episodes, so-called kind of full-blown manic episodes, which may need treatment, may need admission to hospital, may have psychotic symptoms. And then the so-called bipolar 2 disorder, where the depressants may be just as severe as people with bipolar 1, but actually the high moods are not so severe, the so-called hypomania, or kind of less severe mania. John, can I just ask at the time, can anybody else on their thing see lots of different strange arrows appearing on the screen?
Yeah.
I've got no idea what's causing that, so apologies for that, but I wondered if it was just me. And also we go into these issues about what kind of is, what we mean by bipolar 1, bipolar 2, people who maybe not have a formal bipolar disorder but have kind of significant mood swings that sometimes described as cyclothymia. We talk about mixed episodes where people have high mood and low mood symptoms all mixed up together at the same time. Talk about what's meaning by this term rapid cycling, where people have lots of swings from one mood to the other. Think about what's meant by psychotic symptoms, and think about the role that other comorbidities play, particularly anxiety, which is often a really common feature for people with bipolar disorder, that anxiety is a really significant symptom. And then the other thing that we talk about is the delay it takes to get the right label often for people with bipolar disorder. And from research that Bipolar UK have done themselves, you can show that it can take a decade or even longer sometimes from experiencing significant mood symptoms to actually getting the right diagnosis, and often many years from even having episodes of significant high mood, and what the reasons for that may be. And the last thing that we talk about in that sessions is what we know about what causes bipolar disorder. And really, I think the important thing that we try and get across here is that bipolar isn't simply caused by any one thing. It's not what happened to you in your childhood, although things that happen in the childhood can play a role in making some people more vulnerable. It's not just a response to stressful life events, although we know that they can trigger off episodes. But there are often there's a kind of underlying genetic vulnerability in people with bipolar disorder, where all of these things combine to mean that for some people they show signs of this condition. So part of what we do in the course is really kind of pull that apart and see what that means. So John, that's kind of session one quickly. Do you want to come back on that?
Can I just ask you a quick question? There's loads of symptoms that different people experience with bipolar disorder, but it's one name. Do you think in the future they'll have different subtypes of bipolar disorder rather than 1 and 2?
I think it's possible. I think sometimes we can get a bit too uptight on putting different exact labels on things, because I think the point you made there was very well taken, John, is that people with bipolar have very different symptoms often. You know, there is some shared in common, but you know, and I wonder whether splitting in, you know, ever increasing smaller groups will actually be of help at all. Yeah, I think there's a real advantage sometimes to getting that diagnosis of bipolar disorder, because it can put you in touch with groups like Bipolar UK, where you can find, you know, and talk to other people who've gone through this. It can help clinicians really focus the treatment, because what we know is that treatment for depression in bipolar disorder, for example, as we'll go on to say in a second, may be different from the treatment for bipolar for depression for people who don't have that bipolar tendency. So I think there's some real benefits from diagnosis, but yeah, I think our diagnosis are our best guess labels. You know, they're not, you know, the truth. And I think different people experience them in different ways. But for many people with bipolar, getting that right diagnosis can be a really important first step to getting, you know, to living the best life that they can, I think. Excellent. So I'm going to hand over to you now, John, to talk about medication session.
So we've got a few minutes to talk about medication. I think we got to be pretty clear here, and that not everyone with bipolar disorder will need or will want to take medication. Would you disagree with that or agree with that? Yeah.
No, I think that's true. I think one of the important things I'd make to say is that a lot of people with bipolar disorder do benefit, even though there are side effects and downsides, and it's a matter of weighing those up. The medication can be an important part of helping people live the best life they can, and I think we shouldn't feel stigma for that sometimes people needing psychiatric medication can feel.
I think sometimes in the groups we talk about having diabetes. You know, some people with diabetes need to take medication, some people don't. Some people find that a useful thing. And why does it take so long, do you think, to find the medication that works?
I think it would be brilliant if we had a better way of predicting who is going to respond to what treatment, but at the moment it's often kind of a suck it and see approach. We have to try, it's usually trial and error, to find the medication or the combination of medications that can help people best. I mean, it's definitely something that hopefully more research will allow us to be better at predicting, you know, what medication works best for what people.
And is there any evidence that the medications work for a while and then they lose their efficacy over time? And
I think that can be the experience in some people, John. Definitely. And I think everybody's experience is different in that, I think.
And what do you say to people when you see them in clinic, Ian, when they say, I'm taking the medication, but I'm still getting episodes?
I think it's a difficult question, actually, John. But I think for some people, medication may mean that they have less episodes, may mean that their episodes are less severe, may mean that they struggle. It helps control some symptoms. It's not a magic wand. It's not something that's going to take away the illness completely. So again, it's that matter of weighing up those risks, those benefits, the benefits and the downsides of being on the medication, and finding the best combination for you.
Good, thanks, Ian. When we do the course, we spend 3 weeks looking at treatments, and medication is just one of them, and the other 2 weeks look at psychological approaches and lifestyle approaches, things that you can hopefully try and have more control over. So we're certainly not saying medication is the only treatment or the only important treatment in bipolar disorder.
Definitely.
Thank you, Ian. I think, because of time, should we just say that there's lots of different mood stabilizers, and the antipsychotics like olanzapine or quetiapine or in aripiprazole, they're started to use as mood stabilizers now.
I think, John, the important point on that page is to say that, you know, not just medication can be beneficial when people are in high mood to bring the mood down, or in low mood to bring the mood up, but actually for some people with bipolar disorder, taking medication when they're well can be important to try and reduce the risk of them becoming ill again. I think that's an important point to make.
Yeah, those mood stabilizers. Yeah. Let's jump on to the next slide that talks about antidepressants, Ian. I've worked with lots of clinicians who say they'd definitely never ever give someone with bipolar disorder an antidepressant because of the risk it might upset the mood a bit. But we always try and say when we talk about it that, you know, everyone should be treated differently and on a case-by-case example rather than a blanket approach. What do you think?
I'm sure if there's over 100 people in the room listening to this, there'll be many people who have used antidepressants and have benefited from them. So I think you can't be ruling out. The worry about antidepressants is listed on the slide there. There's evidence that perhaps they don't work as well on their own as for depression not occurring in somebody with bipolar disorder. And there is the concern that in some people, in some occasions, they may trigger manic episodes or increase rapid cycling of mood. So I think they need to be used cautiously. And the advice usually in the guidelines is that antidepressants should be used alongside a mood stabilizer or an anti-manic agent to control for some of those dangers. So no hard and fast rules, I think. But yeah, but it's something for people to be aware of, that maybe antidepressants aren't such. There's some issues with them used in bipolar.
But they are mentioned. It's in the NICE guidelines that,
yeah,
you know, if you're involved with, if a clinician says definitely not, you can take the NICE guidelines and say, you know, maybe try it with a mood stabilizer on a low dose.
Yeah,
maybe. Thank you, Ian. Is there another one about antidepressants? Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, just to say that, you know, if antidepressants, you know, there are some issues with, and as I say, for some people, they still can be of benefit. Yeah, just there are other options. You know, there are other medications, you know, optimizing the dose of the mood stabilizer that somebody's on. There are some other drugs that have been shown, and there's evidence that they can help with depression in bipolar, like quetiapine and lamotrigine are two examples there. And then there's always the option for severe cases or cases that, you know, have not responded to other options, that ECT can still be a very effective treatment. Controversial treatment, you know, definitely not first line treatment, but for many people with bipolar disorder, they found that ECT has been very, very effective. And as you said in the last slide, John, the usual practice is to maybe stop antidepressants a bit more quickly than you would if somebody have got bipolar disorder, tail them off slowly, but for depression at other times, the usual pattern is to use them for at least 6 months after somebody's well, but maybe tail them off a bit quicker if somebody has bipolar disorder, and to take them alongside kind of a mood stabilizer medication.
And that's a slide that we talk about stability. Ian, I'm really aware we've taken the time of Kate.
Let me stop sharing and hand it. Who are we handing over to? Who's next?
It's me.
Hey, Kate, over to you.
All right. No worries. Let me just get my screen up. Okay, there we go. So in session 4, we talk about psychological interventions and lifestyle approaches and their place in the treatment of bipolar disorder. In this session, we mainly talk about 2 evidence-based treatments and using psychological therapies and lifestyle factors alongside medication. So as John's already briefly kind of spoken about the matrix table, it's written by the National Psychological Therapies Management Committee, which is supported by Public Health Wales. So to start this session off, what we'd usually do is talk about the matrix table, which documents the interventions that are shown to be useful in managing bipolar disorder based on the levels of severity, level of service, and intensity of the intervention. We explain that there is a lack of evidence to support the benefits of psychological therapies in bipolar. However, the NICE guidelines and the matrix tables recognises and recommends the use of psychoeducation, so for instance, this BEPSI programme, family therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy in the treatment of bipolar disorder. So as you can see in this table, The BEPSI programme actually is regarded as a useful intervention for those experiencing bipolar disorder, and it can be quite a long time before people are able to receive psychological therapies, but programmes such as this BEPSI and the Beating Bipolar Internet-based psychoeducation programmes have been shown to aid in recovery. So there are several psychological approaches used to help people with psychiatric illnesses or psychological problems. And in the BEPSI course, we actually look at examples, exercises, discussions around 2 types of therapies that have been suggested to be beneficial in the treatment of bipolar. And these are cognitive behavioural therapy and interpersonal and social rhythms therapy. So although there are many therapies, probably about over 400 available, it is important to note that it's the relationship between the therapist and the patient, which may be. So we ask participants on this slide to really think about the people who have been helpful to talk to in their past and list some of those characteristics. And what this does, it just aids discussion around the ideal nature of a therapist and the importance of kind of building that good therapeutic relationship. So the cognitive behavioural model. So we explain that CBT is a talking therapy and can help manage bipolar disorder by changing the way you think and behave. CBT identifies the interactions between a person's thoughts, feelings and behaviours to establish problematic or unhelpful patterns, and it works towards changing these processes. So in the BEPSI course, we cover in depth the theory of CBT and how it applies to the treatment of bipolar disorder. We run through psychological techniques derived from CBT called behavioural activation. And then lastly, the second therapy we discussed is called interpersonal social rhythm therapy, which is a bit of a tongue twister. And this is another evidence-based treatment designed to help people with bipolar improve their mood by understanding and stabilising both biological and social rhythms. So during the course, we do apply this model to a real-life situation and encourage participants to discuss their own routines and maybe start to think of ways that they can incorporate a bit more structure and routine into their own life to see if that can help stabilise their moods. So that's the psychological approaches part of the course, and I'll pass on to Alice now, who will discuss the lifestyle factors. So I'll just stop my screen there.
Lovely.
There we go.
Thanks, Kate. So I'm just going to try and show as well. Hopefully you can see that in full screen mode. Right, there you go. So yeah, as Kate mentioned, as part of session 4, we also, sorry, skipping on a bit too fast here. There you go. So yeah, as part of session 4, we also discussed the importance of lifestyle approaches, and this is important stuff because research suggests that even very simple changes to lifestyle can help people to gain some control over their symptoms and to manage their illness more successfully in the long term. So I'll just give a brief overview of some of the points that we cover as part of the course. But the main areas that we focus on are sleep, diet, exercise, alcohol, recreational drugs, and regular routines. Sorry, so yeah, first of all then, sleep. So we know that sleep can be both a core symptom of bipolar as well as a risk factor for triggering mood episodes. So on the course, we talk about how sleep may be disturbed during mood episodes and how there may be a biological basis to this. We understand that the parts of the brain that are responsible for sleep and mood are closely linked, and so this may help to explain why getting an appropriate amount of sleep is essential to improving mood stability. We also talk about how sleep disturbance can easily spiral out of control. So for example, as you know, we've probably all experienced when you're kind of stressed about something, it can interfere with your sleep, leading you to lie awake at night sometimes. And a few nights kind of poor sleep, perhaps combined with other factors such as an increase in alcohol use, might trigger an episode in people living with bipolar disorder. There we go. So we also discussed diet, including the importance of eating balanced, regular meals, drinking plenty of water, and being mindful of caffeine consumption. This might seem like really obvious stuff, but again, probably something that we're all guilty of from time to time, you know, forgetting the importance of. But its research shows that this can be particularly important to think about for people living with bipolar disorder. And also, we talk on the course about how changes in appetite can be a core feature of bipolar, and how mood episodes may be associated with either a significant increase or decrease in appetite. Next of all, exercise. So we discussed how exercise can be hugely beneficial, obviously not only for our physical well-being, but also for our mental well-being. And studies have shown that it can have antidepressant effects associated with the release of endorphins. And from my experience of having delivered the VEPC sessions, this is something which many people say, you know, can be helpful for self-managing symptoms of bipolar. So we talk about the benefits of even moderate amounts of exercise. So, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, going to the gym, even though that's not possible at the minute, but, you know, 5 days a week. It could just be, you know, 20-minute walks 2 to 3 times a week can have a real impact on our well-being potentially as well. We've also included a list here of, you know, other benefits that exercise can have. So, you know, opportunities for socializing and spending time outdoors. Obviously, over the past year, you know, the importance of that has been even greater perhaps throughout the pandemic. We do discuss on the course, though, how during high mood, an increase in energy can make it tempting to potentially exercise excessively. And so we encourage individuals that it's advisable not to overdo it in that case. Oop. Sorry. So the programme also talks about how problematic alcohol and drug use are also common in bipolar, and how substances may be a trigger for mood episodes and also potentially used to help relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression. We talk about how during mania, it's also possible that an increase in use may be related to being more sociable or a desire to maximise feelings of euphoria and elation. So we talk about how drugs and alcohol can cause mood symptoms that mimic bipolar, as well as how they can make symptoms worse and less responsive to treatment as well. So finally, with regards to lifestyle, we talk about how research has shown that alongside other interventions such as medication and psychological therapy and other self-management techniques that Holly's going to talk about shortly, that keeping a regular routine, which can include the things that I've just covered, so sleeping, eating and exercising, but also socializing and partaking in other meaningful activities, can be a really effective way to help stabilize mood and to help prevent episodes of depression and mania or hypomania from occurring. So this may seem like really kind of boring, obvious stuff, but keeping a regular routine and recognizing the benefits of this can really help to give people a satisfying sense of control over their mood. So I'm going to hand over to Holly now, who's going to tell you a bit more about self-management techniques. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. There we go. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Al. So I just pop this up on everybody's screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. Well, okay, so session 5, like Alice mentioned, focuses on self-management. So we look at monitoring mood, identifying triggers and early warning signatures. So there are a number of outcomes for the session. One, that being able to effectively monitor your mood, looking at identifying triggers for depression, hypomania or mania. Also producing an early warning signature for relapse, which will include plans for intervening early to nip episodes of depression and mania in the bud. And lastly, looking at producing a contact sheet with information of all key clinical and support contacts that you may have, which may be recorded on it as well. So looking at monitoring mood to start off with, this is a key part of the psychoeducation programme, and it's based on previous research which suggests that it's helpful in reducing the likelihood of mania and depressive episodes reoccurring. So we look at things that can help with monitoring mood. So for example, we've got the Bipolar UK mood scale, but we also discuss other options such as paper charts. So Bipolar UK offers sort of a daily sort of diary which you can complete, or other electronic sources as well. The next part looks at identifying triggers. So alongside monitoring mood, looking at those triggers which may contribute towards mood episodes can be really helpful. So we encourage our participants to go home after the session, look at completing a triggers chart like the one that you've got on the screen. You may find that some triggers are quite relatively common, and others may be unique to that individual. And I was going to play an animation, but I think we're just a bit short of time today, so I can show you an example of creating a life chart. So hopefully you can see that. So this is something that we also encourage our participants to do. Not something that we say is something that everyone should definitely do, because it can be quite sensitive to go back and think about those events that happened over your lifetime. But looking at when symptoms may have started, when you started experiencing depression or mania, were there any particular stresses that happened over your lifetime that may have contributed to those mood episodes? Okay, and last of all, we also look at early warning signatures. So this is quite beneficial in identifying the changes in feelings, thoughts and behaviours. So again, we encourage participants to think about the simple steps that they can take as part of the personalised relapse plan to help nip episodes of mania or depression in the bud early on. And just lastly, this is an example of a contact sheet which we encourage participants to complete as well. So like I mentioned at the beginning, this can be the contact details of key individuals in that person's life. So that could be clinical contacts, but also family and friends. So should an emergency arise, or you notice that you're starting to experience those symptoms again, which may lead into an episode of depression or mania, then you can, you have those contacts there to hand. And just lastly, if anyone is interested in participating in one of our online courses, please feel free to email your details to the email address on this slide, and we'd be happy to sort of discuss it further and let you know when our next courses are taking place.
Excellent, huge thanks, Holly. So I think we've got about 10 minutes, quarter hour now for questions. I've been going through the chat along with Claire and Lorna, who are looking after us, to kind of pick out some questions. Really interesting things have come up. Let me just kick off by asking John, perhaps, yeah, and then others can comment. That one of the questions, John, was to explain more, which I obviously didn't do well enough, the difference between mania and hypomania. And one of the attendees says that they have bipolar 1, but they also experience hypomanic episodes. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to, to take that first.
Sure, yeah. I mean, manic symptoms are the extreme of mood. So you might get psychotic symptoms. You might find you're not sleeping for days, lots of symptoms of that nature. But just because you have experienced bipolar 1, which includes those manic symptoms, doesn't mean that you can't have slightly lower manic symptoms or hypomanic symptoms within the diagnosis of bipolar 1. That's my answer, Ian. What's your answer?
Good one, John. I think I think these are in some sense artificial lines that are drawn between these episodes, isn't there? And
yeah, there is.
what we know is that there's kind of a continuum in the severity of high episodes, and the distinction between mania and hypomania, distinction between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is just to say that for some people they have very severe high episodes, some people have less severe manic high episodes, but that's not to say that their illness as a whole isn't as severe, because their depressions can be as severe or not. And for people who have mania at sometimes, that's not to say that other highs can be hypomania.
And I think hypomanic states can be just as significant as manic states on an individual. You know, just because one isn't worse than the other, both can be pretty bad.
And another question that's come through, which I think is a really common one we found from people that coming through the groups, is one of the participants says that they really struggle to consistently take their meds. Yeah. Any thoughts? Yeah, Pete, and Phil particularly, anything that you find that you, from experience of going through the course, from the discussions with other people that have been through, that can be helpful on that front? Pete, shall I go to you first?
Yeah, I've only actually taken medication reactively. I've never been on a mood stabilizer because my episodes have been sort of quite far apart, I think. So, but I think with any sort of medication that's dependent on someone with a mood disorder, to take them is an issue, I think. But I wish I could offer something more constructive.
Thanks, Pete. Phil, any thoughts from you on that question?
Probably say turn taking your meds into part of a routine. I think sometimes people find it easier when they've actually got a routine of what they're doing from day to day. And if it's sort of integrated in part of a routine or put on a calendar, then they got something to stick to then. So that might be of help to some people. Try doing that.
I think that's really useful. John, anything else that's come up over the years of people that found beneficial to be an aid in this?
I don't think so. I mean, some people say they don't like taking psychiatric medications because of the nature that they are psychiatric medications. They'd be happy to take something like for diabetes or even epilepsy or something, but for taking psychiatric medications carries different connotations for themselves and for family or close friends.
There's a couple of suggestions coming through in the chat, which is a really fantastic example about how the course works. You know, some people talking about using a journal for their meds, to setting alarms on their phone, using Post-its, using a pill box. I think these are all really good examples. I think that kind of response from all of us gathered together today really shows what the real principle of how the psychoeducation program can work, because people can learn from each other, gain their experience, you know, and find out things that other people have found really helpful. So thanks everybody for all those suggestions. One question that came up, to be interesting to see from the team, and it's obviously an area that's close to my heart, yeah, is that one of the participants says that she's been told that a person with bipolar 2 cannot successfully parent their children. Is that true? Is this something, John, that's come up in discussion, yeah, in the sessions?
I think when we first started in the course about 10 years ago, it came up from time to time. In the recent years, it hasn't, which is, I remember when I started working in psychiatry years ago, there were lots of psychiatrists who said that, but thankfully they don't say it now. You know, it's a very strong draconian view, isn't it? I don't.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in my career, I've worked with many women and their partners who've gone on to choose to become parents, and have done so incredibly successfully. So definitely, I think nobody should be saying that people with bipolar can't be fantastic parents, because all the evidence is to the contrary there. Yeah,
definitely.
There's a question that's come in about people with autism and struggling with group courses. John, would you have anything to say about kind of alternative ways of getting the information if people feel being a part of a group isn't possible?
I mean, that's why doing virtual groups or learning from your own, the program we had called Beating Bipolar was very good, because you could do it individually and build up your own portfolio and still learn from that. Yeah, people are different, aren't they? And I think having different ways in which we can provide interventions like this is very useful.
Some other questions that have come in, people have submitted questions before the event. I don't know if Kate, Alice, or Holly got a comment, but what somebody's asked, if you ever stop being bipolar, yeah, can bipolar be cured? Yeah, anybody want to jump in on that? Holly?
So unfortunately it's not a condition that can be cured, but I think you should think of it as a condition really that can be self-managed, and whether that's by taking medications, you know, go into sort of using psychological therapies, and really just focusing on your lifestyle and those sort of daily routines like Alice was discussing as well. So yeah, there is no cure, but it is manageable, and as we've learnt from meeting participants in the BEPC course as well.
Excellent.
How about you, Pete? Sorry, can I ask Pete? Because Pete was nodding then. What do you think about that last question?
I think it can become dormant for certainly for a substantial period. I mean, I had my first two hypomanic episodes were in the 90s, and I had a period when my lifestyle and my sort of relationships were very stable, and I didn't have any other episodes for about 12 years. So I wasn't knowledgeable, I wasn't consciously doing anything to prevent them. It was just by living to a very ordered lifestyle. So I think, yeah, you can go into remission, so to speak, but then it always got the potential to resurface, which it did for me when my partner died a few years ago. There's always a possibility of a trigger that's going to set things off again.
How about you, Phil? What do you think about?
Yeah, I agree with Pete. I mean, it can go dormant or sort of level off. And also you can be managed with medication and various treatments, being anything from the GP or any other treatment. But yes, yeah, it can be managed. I mean, it'll never go, so it's always going to be there. So with the right medication, then it can sort of level off, so you don't get too many highs, or maybe no highs and no lows. So pretty level.
Phil, before we go, Phil, we got about 5 minutes left. But did you want to say anything about the support group that you're involved with? Are you still involved in the support group?
Yeah, very quickly then. I run Bipolar UK support group for in Swansea, and also a men's mental health and wellbeing support group as well, which we are now expanding. So yeah, we're doing quite a lot. We're actually allowed to go out. We're able to do walks, so that's going to help a lot of mental health.
Super.
Excellent. I don't know if and I think it's right to give the last opportunity to Phil and Pete, who we've been incredibly privileged to have with us today. Pete, is there anything further you want to say before we finish off?
just how helpful I found the course, really. I mean, I'd done quite a bit of reading myself, and I'd come across interpersonal social rhythm therapy, which was mentioned, and it was very reassuring to find that some of the paths I'd started myself were worthwhile, and lifestyle, routine, all those things that were discussed, I now know is the way to go. And as I said before, I would recommend the course, and it really crystallized a lot of things for me and was very useful.
Phil, thanks for those words. Very wise advice. I think, Phil, is there anything that you want to say before we finish?
No, just hope everyone who's attended has got some good useful information and help from this.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you. Particularly thanks to Phil and Pete for coming on and sharing their lived experience, which is absolutely such a core, an important part of what we do. Huge thanks to John, to Holly, to Kate, and to Alice, who come from the team to share just a little taster. As you say, you know, there's no way in an hour we can cover everything you need to know. That was misinformation. You could take us to the Advertising Standards Authority, I'm sure, for that. But what we hope to do is just give you a little bit of a taste of why, you know, why understanding more about this condition and your illness, and understanding about self-management, about the importance of that medication can play, and all of this can really help people live the best life with bipolar, which is what it's all about, which is what Bipolar UK is about. So huge thanks to Lorna and Claire from Bipolar UK for looking after us. Big thanks for Bipolar UK. Just wanted to share one other thing I forgot to put up before, which is, if you can see, that's this slide. I had a few slides I wanted to share about a fantastic mood monitoring program online called True Colours, that through Bipolar Disorder Research Network we're able to offer to people with bipolar disorder. And if that's something that you think that you may benefit from, yeah, if you go to the link that's up there on the slide to bdrn.org, you can sign up to be part of a study that's looking at the benefits of that use in bipolar disorder. So Holly gave you the link to register your interest if you're interested, yeah, as we hope to do, and we were working and had lots of discussions with Bipolar UK about how we might do this to be able to roll this out more widely. If you're interested, you know, let us know, and we'll keep you on the list and can let you know when there are courses available.
Oh, I think I'll take that one.
Huge thanks for all my co-presenters. Huge thanks to Lorna and Claire, to Bipolar UK, and I think with 1 minute to go, we're going to finish on time, which is for us is very good, because we're normally bit like talking about this so much that we go well over. So with all that, huge thanks for all of you for attending. I think we had well over 100 people in the room, which is brilliant. We'll save the chat and the questions, and what we can do, I think we'll try and do, is if there are any kind of themes, questions that have come up that we've not addressed, we'll try and look at that as a team and maybe put something up on through the Bipolar UK website as a kind of FAQs or something to address that. I think I've thanked everybody on multiple occasions, haven't I? It's probably my turn to shut up now and let you go back to the rest of the meeting. So thanks everybody, and goodbye.